Now, all this week, as part of our Time to Talk campaign, Ireland have been raising awareness for mental health and doing our bit to shed light on what needs to be done to help tackle this growing issue here in Ireland.
And today we're joined by Galway hurler Conor Whelan and Tipperary hurler Niall O Meara, who are here to highlight the importance of looking after our mental health after both tragically losing close family members to suicide. And they join us now to tell us their story. Well, gentlemen, you're very welcome to the show this morning. It's the first time both of you have spoken on television about it. I mean, obviously you've paid tribute, in particular yourself, Conor, when you won the All-Ireland. You had a flag there to represent your cousin. But why was it important, Niall, if I could start with you, for you to talk about this? Why did you want to get the message out there, or what message did you want to get out there?
I've been affected by numerous, both close and friends of brothers and sisters of friends. So I think it's, you know, it's the stigma involved with it. I think it's important to raise awareness because just we're talking to Conor about it. You wouldn't know people are actually struggling. You think a person could have everything and inside it could be really hurting. So, you know, for myself, for our own experience, my brother committed suicide and just left a gap in our family and can never be filled again. So, yeah, I think it's, especially nowadays, it seems to be, unfortunately, getting more common. So the more that's done for it, the better, I think. Yeah,
well, I mean, we're calling it Time to Talk because the more you talk about it, the easier it gets for people to reach out for help. You were 11 when your brother Paul died by suicide. What do you remember from that time?
I actually remember vividly enough, to be honest. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but like it was just, I suppose, I remember this, it was just a Saturday night. I was around the mid-term break. I'll always remember that for that reason, because we were off school and just you could hear a noise downstairs. And just, look, to be honest, Paul was 21 at the time. He was after coming back from Niall, I think, having a few drinks. He wouldn't really be thinking much of it. I had a good relationship with him and never really thought much into it. Like, you just wouldn't know. I was too young to know, maybe. And maybe, like, obviously my parents weren't too sure either. Like, you just don't know, you see. These things are going to happen, but things happen, and I suppose we were devastated. We ended up moving house and different things like that just because it left such, we were destroyed after it, you know, on a personal level. And then, so yeah, just it was very difficult for us. Yeah, but we came through it fairly well after, so my mother and father deserve great credit for that, I must say.
For the family, because we did speak about it yesterday, didn't we, with our guest, Kieran McClune, and he had those thoughts before, and we were asking him, do you ever feel that your family are going to be better off without you? And that's certainly not the way it is.
No, you know, it leaves a massive hole, you know, and it's just something that has to be talked about, and just, there's still a stigma there, but in the last 4 or 5 years, it has come a long way, but I think in the next 4 or 5 years, it just has to go another level to get the stigma away. And just, you know, if somebody is suffering, that somebody can put an arm around them and just talk to them. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's the same as having a pain in your stomach or anything. It's just a sickness. And, you know, these things can be helped with the right people around you, you know, so that's just...
Do you think, lads, and this is a question for both of you, either one of you can pick it up, do you think that your generation have suffered with this a bit more? I mean, I know certainly when I was growing up, I'd never heard of anybody committing suicide. Now, in those days, you didn't talk about it. But even looking back now, the same level of pressure wasn't on people. People weren't viewing that as an option. Now, I have a son who's your age, and one of the horrifying things for me as a parent is that his generation, some of his generation, viewed suicide as an option if things didn't work out. And for the life of me, I don't understand why your generation would think of that.
Yeah, but I think it's been more addressed now. I think years ago it was kind of sectioned off and it was kind of frowned upon. Whereas I think now, the more attention we're putting towards it, the more we're actually seeing, well, maybe this lad who we're looking at the outside, he looks like he's everything going for him. But if we scratch the surface, maybe he actually doesn't, and maybe when there's no one around him, he is feeling lonely. Whereas years ago, I just think it was kind of frowned upon, and he was kind of just, it just wasn't, the surface wasn't scratched. And I think now it is. But going back to your point there, I was at Kinvara Live launch there on Sunday, and in particular, I was listening to Pieta House, and the statistics were saying like there was children as young as 11 and 10 debating suicide. Like, so that's a serious statistic, as both as a parent and both as a person, to be hearing them sort of stats like that. There's somebody as young as 11 debating suicide. Like your brain hasn't developed at that age, but yet you're still debating suicide. Like, so it's just a massive topic that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I know we're saying talk, but you wonder, is there... can that talk be dangerous? I mean, if you're 11 or 12 and you know, you're not developed, you don't have the life experience, you haven't grown up enough yet to make you know, any really serious decision, and you're debating at something as serious as, well, if I'm really sad or awful or depressed or whatever, then maybe I'll take my life, and that'll be the answer. You know, that's the kind of thing that makes parents lose sleep. You know.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that word at 11.
No.
Definitely not, or what it was.
Like,
I'm primary. I'm teaching like kids that are 11, 12. Like that was the last thing you'd expect them to be on their mind. To be honest, like you go out into the air and you see all the kids running around having fun and enjoying themselves. Like to be honest, I'm shocked. At that.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm
As a
shocked.
teacher, as an educator,
I'm shocked,
and somebody who's in loco parentis,
Yeah.
Does this inform your thinking as a teacher? Do you think, well, do you know what? I know it shouldn't, but it is, and it's something that I need to watch out for?
Yeah, definitely. Like I know our principal in the school, Marie, she's a great woman. She works a lot and just like taking brain breaks and just having fun inside in the classroom. That's massive. Like as I said, I can't believe that statistic.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I'm totally awestruck. But I think I think social expectancies now are different to what they were years ago. You know, like way different. With whole social media, all these things, to create a perception of what's real, and it's not. Like definitely not one whit real. Like. You know?
Yeah, that you have to put your best foot forward
exactly,
and
like-
make it look like everything's
Yeah,
perfect. And you're very much judged, and a lot of young people, as young as 11, are living waiting for a number of likes, and if they're not getting those likes, or if they're getting negative stuff online, it's going to have a massive impact on them.
Yeah. Social media aspect of it, right? Like it's getting bigger and bigger, and you know, there's social expectancies, and as you said yourself, like maybe if they're not getting a certain amount of likes or on a photo, they're just wondering like, well, is there something wrong with me? Like, so that's another area that has to be addressed. But like, for me, going back to my personal issue, like before Niall, I never knew what the word depression was like. So like, for me, as young people, do they know what depression is like? Do they understand that if you're not feeling well and if you're down, that is
It's
depression?
all right not to feel
Yeah,
bad.
exactly. It's perfectly fine. But does the young people in Ireland understand that? Like, you know, and for me, I didn't understand it until I had a personal tragedy. So maybe it's that if you have a personal experience, it's only then that you learn. Like, so I don't know.
How did your family deal?
Oh well, like it's you're never gonna forget, but you just learn to live with it. You know, it's just as Niall said, there's a hole left there, and you know it'll never be filled. But you just learn how to adapt. Really, you know.
You mentioned Pieta House.
Yeah, Pieta House has done massive work around the country, and also Jigsaw. Personally, I got involved with Jigsaw in Galway, and they set up a branch in South Galway where I live, and like they have somebody who will drive out to, say, the countryside in Kinvara and meet somebody who, if they text in and say they're feeling down, and just drive out and meet them for a coffee and a chat, like, and you know, maybe sometimes that's all it is. Like, people think like they have to do this amazing work, but maybe sometimes if they just talk and just get it off their chest, they're just feeling better straight away, like, you know. So that's just...
Yeah, I suppose when you're in that deep dark hole, and unless you go through it, it's almost impossible for us to understand what that's like. But you think nobody cares, actually, people won't, they'll be better off if I'm not here. And even just another human being, another piece of human contact, saying, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I'd miss you. I have 5 minutes for you. I'd like to have a cup of coffee with you. I'll talk to you. And suddenly you think, well, actually, maybe I'm not useless, or maybe this hole isn't as dark and as deep as I think it is.
I think like you're right, because I know that through GPA, like Conor Husic's a big ambassador for it.
Well, Connor's an amazing man.
Like,
He's a wonderful man.
I've met him a couple of times. Like, I think we've all been through a patch where you don't know what you're doing, and you might get down over, like, you know, as regards. I remember going to college, I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. You're looking away, and I ended up getting on GPA for contact, and it sent me down the right route. And I know other lads that got help from GPA, and it was brilliant. Like, so there is places out there, like even in Nina, which town just in Tipperary, there's a Living Links inside Nina. There's a former principal running courses to train people, just as Conor said, how to actually speak to someone. You know, like, it's not a stigma. You just speak to someone, how are you getting on? Just small things like positive comments. The effect a positive comment has is unreal, because as a GA player, you don't hear too much positivity. The first that'll try and kick you, you know, where if things are going bad. So, like, I think positivity as well, like, there's not enough good energy going around.
That's a really
yeah.
good point. I mean, Paul Flynn was here on the couch this week talking about the same subject, and he said even his attitude has changed to teammates, that if someone's injured, he'd be more likely now to give them a call and say, are you feeling okay? Not just the injury, but how's your head not being able to play?
Yeah, I think that like I've had a few injuries now, unfortunately, like, and I know other lads have as well. And just it's a hard place to be in because you're involved with Tip or Gall or wherever it may be, and it's a competitive setup. And then you're not able to train. You feel like you're losing out. And then you're kind of getting down because you feel like you're falling behind. And that's the same for everybody, I suppose. If you're studying or you're in college and you feel like you're falling behind, I suppose you could get down. So it's just like it's important that you're able to share your experience too. You know, how are you? How are you getting on? How's life? How's work? Just small things. I feel that makes a big difference because there's a lot of negativity. Like there seems to be a lot.
We were discussing
general.
this yesterday about, you know, if you saw somebody with a really bad cut and they were bleeding all over the place or a broken arm, it was obviously injured. You're coming to the hospital now. You wouldn't take any nonsense from them. Get in the car. You're going to the hospital now or ringing an ambulance for you. But if you saw somebody behaving in a very sort of unstable fashion, or that you knew that they were having serious problems, mental problems, there is a reluctance in us to go that extra step. It's sort of, oh well. No, if you had a broken arm, I'd drag you to hospital. But if you're something broken in your mind, I don't know whether it's okay for me to do that step. I'm just wondering, because of your experiences, would that be a barrier? Would you allow that to get in the way of your thinking, or would you just say, no, listen, you need to talk to somebody, you need to get help now?
Well, I suppose it's a more complex topic, like, because it's your brain at the end of the day, and it's the thing that functions your body, I suppose. And as people, like, everyone nearly has an experience of breaking a bone or breaking something like. But when you're talking about the mind, it's a different story.
There's
like,
still a stigma attached, though, isn't there?
There is.
Or a lack of
100%.
understanding. That
or that we don't
fear.
know whether it's actually okay to say. It's okay to say you have a broken arm, but it's not okay to say, well, maybe your mind is broken, because you're almost like accusing people you're accusing them of something being wrong, you know. And I'm just wondering, have we got to the point where we're over that stigma yet?
I remember, I suppose, going to a cycle for suicide event in my local school, and I remember one of the comments was, it's okay not to feel okay. I think, like, for people, I'd say they were kind of thinking, is it? Like, you know, it was kind of like, it was thrown out there and people didn't know how to receive it. And I think Conor's right. Like, you'd have times where, like, you could we just do it a chat? A chat could mean that, but you don't, I say the worst thing is you don't want to approach somebody further. Maybe you'd be more comfortable if someone's approaching you and just say, well, how are things getting on? And it might come out that way. Like, I don't think many people are going to go up and say, I'm not in a good place. Like, you're not gonna, you know, really, you're not. Like, I just think people might think it shows weakness, but to be honest, it shows strength.
Especially for men, like, you know, the statistics show that it's men who are suffering more. Like, I know women suffer as well, but it shows that men are suffering more. And, like, for me, that says, like, for a man, he might think, you know, as Niall said, that he looks weak talking, like, but it shows strength for a man to be able to come to another person and say, look, I'm not feeling well, like. But men are perceived in the past as being the stronger class, like, so. That's just
strong doesn't have to mean silent.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So
listen to me. Can I just say,
great strength here today, I have to say.
Thank you both very much indeed. You're two fine examples of young men, and congratulations on your year.
Cheers.
Hopefully it won't be another 29 years.
Hopefully.
And hopefully for you it won't be another 10 years, because that's what Tipperary do, isn't it? Once every 10 years.
I wouldn't say that, no. Hopefully not, anyway.
Anyway, listen, thank you both very much.
Thank you very, very much.
It made a big difference.